What's up, everybody? Today we're going to do something kind of fun. We are going to come up with a bunch of vocabulary based off of an initial voice leading idea. We're going to talk about all the implications of that, all the ways we can go about it, and my hope is at the end of the video you'll be able to go and write a bunch of your own vocabulary using this same idea, which will benefit you greatly in your quest to be a better improviser. All right, so let's dive in. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with this initial voice leading template. And it's pretty simple. So we're using a 2/5 in the key of C, and we're going from A to A flat to G. However you think about it, it's fine. And if you don't think about it at all, that's also fine, because really we just want to hear it. So let's hear what this voice leading sounds like. It sounds really beautiful. Very classic sound in jazz. Listen to it again. Really nice, right? Now I want you to sing it. So sing this pitch, and then just sing the whole notes. Ready? Here we go. Now sing it without my horrible voice in there. 1, 2, ready, go. One more time, ready, go. Cool. So everything that we do, all the lines, all the vocabulary that we write, would be based off of that voice leading. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to start with something really simple. So I'm not going to dive into like these insanely complicated lines. I'm going to write a line that just uses quarter notes. So let's listen to this first line that we wrote. Listen again. Nice, right? Now let's sing it. So here, again, here's your starting pitch. 1, 2, ready, go. Again, ready, go. Cool. So you'll notice that I have the voice leading, the notes in this initial exercise highlighted in red, because I really want you to see the voice leading happening when we go beyond just the straight up whole notes, right? So look what's happening here. We're hearing the A twice in the first measure, then we're hearing the A flat twice in the second measure, and then we're hearing the G twice in the third measure. I also want to draw your attention to something else. Do you notice that we are doing direct voice leading? Meaning, just like in the initial template, we are directly going from A to A flat when the measure changes. And then we're doing that again. We're going directly from A flat to G. So this is like what I would call a really like emphatic use of the voice leading, right? Where it's like right there in front of you. You hear it when the chord changes, we do the voice leading and we go right from one into the other. So this is a great way to start because we hear that voice leading directly, but we also have some cool notes around it. We're starting to expand upon our initial. Right? But that voice leading is really what makes the line cool. So let's keep going. Here's line number 2. So you can see we're getting a little bit more complicated. We've got some cool rhythm happening. Okay, so let's just listen to it first. Listen again. Here we go. Okay, now I want you to sing it. So here's your starting pitch. 1, 2, ready, sing. Sing again, ready, go. Cool. All right, so let's take a peek at it now. All of the A's to the A flats to the G's are highlighted in red again. That voice leading is highlighted again. And again, we see some direct voice leading, don't we? So A right into A flat when the chord changes, and then A flat right into G when the chord changes again. But now we have a little bit more flowery language around it, right? We have a lot more moving parts. But again, I want you to bring your ear back to the fact that you can still hear this. Even though there's a lot going on, it still gives the distinct impression that it's based off of that sound. And in fact, I wouldn't have written that particular line if I wasn't concerned with that sound, right? Everything that I wrote was from that initial. I'm just figuring out cool ways to harness the power of that. Okay, let's go on to the third line. Let's just hear it first. Let's hear it again. All right, let's sing. Here's your starting pitch. 1, 2, ready, go. To sing again. All right, let's look at the voice leading in this one. This is the first time that we've moved beyond the direct voice leading. So let me explain what I'm talking about. Do you notice that there's not the overt motion from an A to an A flat here? And also there isn't the overt direct motion from an A flat to a G. Instead, what we have is we still are hearing the A to the A flat to the G, but it's just not as obvious, if that makes sense. But let's go back to our initial template. Does it still give that impression of that voice leading being there and being important? Yes, it does. It definitely does. And isn't that interesting? Even without the direct movement from A to A flat to G, we still get that underlying impression of that voice leading happening and being really important and kind of being the basis for the line, right? Because even though we don't have that direct motion, the line is still built off of that sound. Everything that's happening is based around that voice leading, and your brain and your ears sort of put together that sound, even though it's not happening as nakedly as, you know, the first two lines. All right, let's keep going. All right, so let's listen. Listen again. All right, now sing. Here's your starting pitch. 1, 2, sing, go. Sing again. All right, so let's talk about this one. Again, we don't have that overt motion from bar 1 to bar 2, but we do have it from bar 2 going into bar 3. And you could see still I'm using a ton of the A's then a lot of the A flats, and then a lot of the Gs. In fact, I'm using 3 As, 4 A flats, and then 4 Gs, right? Now, something else really interesting is happening in this line. There's also secondary voice leading. Look at this, E to E flat to D. And even though these are really spread out, and I'm not concerned with any kind of, oh, I need to move right from E to E flat to D, it's there and you're hearing it, and it's part of what's making that line so effective. So really, you're not only hearing this, you're also hearing this. And you're kind of hearing them together. Yeah? See if you can hear that. Ready? So this one's kind of cool. It has more than just the initial voice leading. It's giving us 2 instances of voice leading for our ears to really wrap themselves around, which is awesome. That's part of what makes that line so great, in my opinion. And it's not because I'm some genius. It's just like we're harnessing the power of voice leading. All right, let's do one more. Here's the last line. So let's just listen first, as usual. Listen again. Here we go. Okay, let's sing. Here's your starting pitch. 1, 2, sing, go. One, two, sing again. Isn't that a nice one? All right, let's look at the voice leading. So we have a direct transition from the A to the A flat, but here it's really interesting, right? This is really spread out, isn't it? A flat all the way over here on the end of 3 of the second bar, and then we actually don't hear the resolution until way over there. We don't hear that G. But again, and I know I keep coming back to this, but this is the most interesting part, is if we go back to our initial template, we still get the vibe, don't we? So one of the things that I love about this is we have that initial voice leading, we have that initial sound, and then there's literally kind of infinite ways to express that sound. There's infinite ways to go about keeping the vibe and the sound of that voice leading, but we can do so many different things around it. Okay, so before we wrap this up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a quick recording of me actually playing saxophone, the instrument I'm actually good at, and playing all of these lines just right in a row, one after another. And what I want you to notice is that even though you're hearing all these different lines, I want you to really try to focus your ears on that through line of the... And when you hear all of them back to back, one after another without stopping, you really get that sense. So let's do that. You hear it? It's pretty nice, isn't it? It's just something that ties everything together. And the reason I love doing this with vocabulary so much is that it provides some structure around our vocabulary practice, right? So what we are doing is we're coming up with a plethora of material, but it all has a unifying factor. It all has that voice leading. So rather than going and choosing like some random piece of vocabulary or writing a random piece of vocabulary, what we can do is we can come up with a ton of vocabulary. But again, it all has that theme, which is the initial voice leading that we came up with. So what you should do when you turn this video off is pretty simple. You should just take that voice leading and you should write a dozen, 30, 100, 300 pieces of vocabulary that harness the power of that. Now you're probably saying, well, would you take this and would you put it in all 12 keys or whatever? Well, it depends on what I want to do, right? So if I'm concerned with getting the sound of this voice leading into my ears and wrapping my brain and my ears around it, I don't have to do it in all 12 keys. What I would want to do is I would want to play a bunch of different lines in one key so that I hear that voice leading from all sorts of different angles. And if my goal is to really improve my ears, that's all I really need to do. But if you need to improve the ears and you also want to do some technical work on your instrument to be sure that you can play in every key, well then yeah, you can go and you could do 12 key work with this stuff. It will also benefit your ears like crazy, but it will also get you moving through all the keys. It's just like if you are not ready for that yet, this might not be the best way to do it, right? Keep practicing all your scales through all the 12 keys. This is some seriously heavy lifting if you're going to take like 10 lines and put them through all 12 keys. Geez, you'll still get a ton of the benefits by doing it in one or maybe two keys. So you should write a whole bunch of lines harnessing the power of that voice leading. In the coming weeks, we'll go over some other really, really cool voice leading. And I think for a lot of you, this will really open a door to writing some really amazing vocabulary for yourself. And that's always great when you come up with some stuff from your head. It just tends to stick a lot better. Now, as always, when we're working on like isolated vocabulary like this, the goal is not really to memorize this stuff and then try to play it note for note in your solos. It's just to study a huge volume of vocabulary and start to program yourself to play really quality stuff. Now, before we go, quick plug for my online jazz education program, the Jazz Intensive. This is the kind of stuff that we do all the time. And if you're looking for more in-depth discussions that are two-way discussions, not just me on a video speaking to a bunch of people, but an actual group of students together talking about this stuff, interjecting with questions. And if you know you're at the point in your education where you need somebody's ears on your playing and you need them to listen to you and give you direct advice for what you need to do to move you to the next level, the Jazz Intensive is really for you. To learn more about what that program is and what you get and the ideas behind it and hear from some of the people that are currently in it and loving it, just click that link in the description below. You'll get all the information you need and you can apply to see if you're the right fit for this group. All right, everybody, let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, thanks for hanging out with me. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.